Okay, so it is 5:33, and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, we are going to do some housekeeping. The first order of business is the election of officers, to elect a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and elect a clerk. So can I hear nominations for the position of chair?
I nominate Eileen.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to nominate me. Are there any other nominations? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, thank you for that. So the next order of business is to elect a vice chairperson. Can I hear a nomination for that?
I'd like to nominate Peg.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, been moved and seconded to nominate Peg. Are there any other nominations? Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, can I hear a nomination to elect a clerk?
I nominate Nate.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to nominate Nate as the clerk. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, good, so we have our slate of officers. Next one is to review and comment on policies and procedures. This is something we do every year. We adopt the rules of procedure policy and the conflict of interest and ethical conduct policy for town officials. The first one is recommended, the second one is mandatory. I think we should, hopefully the one that we have in here is the one that we adopted last year for the rules of procedure.
It is.
Okay, good. There has been a request from the Planning Commission to extend this rules of procedure not just for the Putney Select Board, but to all committees and commissions. So I don't know if we want to do that now. Sometimes when we try to put different things in these on the fly, things we get unintended consequences. So maybe we should just adopt this for tonight, and then we can. I'm willing to take it on and amend it to apply to everyone. That sounds like a good idea to everybody else. It would save them a lot of heartache because they've actually spent a lot of time on their rules of procedure and don't actually agree on them. So, can I hear a motion to adopt the rules of procedure policy?
So moved.
Any second? Oh, the one thing that we do have to do is make sure that we set a time and place for the regular select board meetings. Fletcher, we usually meet on every other Wednesday. Is that a good time for you? At
It's as
5:30?
good as any.
Okay. Everybody else, it's still good? Okay, so we're going to adopt, I'm going to rescind that motion. Let's adopt the rules of procedure policy with the time and place being every other Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. at the town hall and on Zoom. Can I hear a motion to that effect? So moved. Second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the rules of procedure for the Putney Select Board with the time and place, the time being every other Wednesday, starting today, from today, at 5:30 p.m. at the town hall and on Zoom. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next one is the conflict of interest and ethical conduct policy. That one I also think needs a little tweaking, but again, I think we should just adopt it for today and take another good look at it at another date relatively soon, unless somebody has an objection.
That sounds like a good idea.
So can I hear a motion?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the conflict of interest and ethical conduct policy for town officials. It's actually for boards, committees, appointed and elected officials. So it does apply to everybody who is subject to open meeting law.
I would like to note one obvious conflict that I have. I'll have to recuse myself from anything to do with the ball field.
Okay.
If others, I do represent people in Putney. I don't know of anybody else who has business before this board, but if it comes up, I'll
Okay.
let you know.
Yeah, normally, it's on the fly because of a conflict of interest. We don't require people to list their conflicts of interest right on that because who knows what they are, right?
Yeah.
But that's good to know. Thank you for that. Anybody else have any ongoing conflicts of interest that they need to disclose? Any further discussion? Karen, I'm sorry. I forgot you were on Zoom.
It's okay. I just want to mention that the state has a bill out right now to clarify public officer.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure adopting this now. It may change.
Yeah, I think we can adopt it now, and
Okay.
if the state actually has a major revamping bill right now on the code of ethics, that we all should be aware of, but we are still required to adopt a conflict of interest policy due to current state statutes. So I think we should just go with it as is and change it as we need to when that bill comes out.
Okay.
Any other comments in the room about the conflict of interest policy? Or any other discussion among the board? We moved and seconded it, right? Okay. So hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the next one is to select the official newspaper of record and alternate newspaper of record. This is typically for, Karen, help me out here, for like zoning permit notices, right? And other.
Yeah, any legal notices or notices for public hearings that have to go in the paper. So our newspaper of record is the Commons, with the Brattleboro Reformer being our alternate, and it's based on price.
Okay, that's been working well for us.
It has been working really well for us.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Karen, when do we use the alternate? Like, under what circumstances?
If we're beyond the deadline.
Oh, because the Commons only comes out once a week.
Right. Yeah, the Commons you have to have your legal notice usually to them on Friday, no later than Monday. And their paper comes out on Wednesday.
Right.
So, and the Brattleboro Reformer, you can get a legal notice in there pretty much anytime.
Okay. That's good to know. Can I hear a motion to select the official newspaper of record as the Commons and the alternate newspaper of record as the Brattleboro Reformer?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the official newspaper of record as the Commons and the alternate newspaper of record as the Brattleboro Reformer. Is there any discussion on the board? Any other discussion? Any questions? Any questions in the room about that? Any questions online? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Next is to select the official attorney of record and the alternate attorney of record. And our official attorney has been Salmon and Nostrand, which is Laura Slason. And our alternate has been Fisher and Fisher Law Offices, which is Robert Fisher. How's that been working, Karen?
It's been good.
Okay. Has Larry been notified that we are continuing with that?
Yes, I actually met with him today.
Okay, so, and he's good with it?
He's good for another year.
Okay, okay. And does, I assume Fisher and Fisher also knows that we've selected them as the alternate?
I have not been in contact with Bob.
Okay.
But I can follow up with him.
It might be a good idea just to make sure.
I think at some point too, we might want to do an RFP
Okay,
and just put something out there just to see, at some point, we're going to have to do it anyway.
yeah.
Can
we change it at any point during the year?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, we have a budget for an attorney, legal counsel.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was only something, so it would make sense that we could change, so things happen, so.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Any discussion on the board? About those two choices? Okay, is there any discussion online? Any discussion on? Can I hear a motion to select the official attorney of record, as Salmon and Nostrand, which is Lawrence Slason, and the alternate attorney of record as Fisher Law Offices, which is Robert Fisher. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to select the official attorney of record as Salmon and Nostrand, Lawrence Slason, and the alternate attorney of record, Fisher Law Offices, Robert Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next piece on here is a Forest for Learning request for letter of support, but I don't see, is, anybody a representative for Forest for Learning online? Why don't we move that down, a little bit? I'm not sure. Lionel was actually aware that he was on the agenda. And then our next thing is to discuss the fire department. This is a little backward. I just want to acknowledge that our agenda is a little backwards because all of our new business stuff is lumped in with the reorg. And then the stuff that we usually do, housekeeping, is on the bottom, but that's okay. We'll just leave it that way. So the next piece on the agenda is the fire department discussion. Karen, is there a specific reason? What are we discussing in particular?
So we have the AP Triton operations analysis. And my question to the board is, do you want to move forward with the strategic planning?
What's the board's feeling on that?
Because if you do, we need to put a request for proposals out.
Okay,
Because anything over 5,000, according to our purchasing policy, needs to go out to bid.
I mean, it was one of their leading recommendations, so I think it would be a good idea to pursue that strategy. As long as we're not overtaxing ourselves. I mean, do we have the capacity to run a strategic plan, I guess? If we've got you're thinking of a consultant to head it up, is that the?
Yes,
Okay,
I don't think it should be done internally.
okay.
And
But presumably it would have some kind of input from current members of the fire department and the public, I assume.
yes, I would see a team of people,
Okay,
and it would include the fire department, people in the public, potentially. Obviously one board member at least.
okay.
But I think it should be professionally conducted.
Okay. I think that's, I mean, I understand it's, we're expending more money, but I think it's probably a good idea in the long run. That's my personal opinion. What does the rest of the board think?
It's American money, though.
We do, and I think we even have an application for that, just such that thing.
I guess it wouldn't hurt to get some prices, see where we're at, and what we get for interest.
Okay. Okay.
There's another recommendation in that report, which is a forensic audit.
Yeah.
And not just the fire department, but the town. And frankly, I'm strongly in favor of that. So I would like, if Karen's willing to do some investigation on who we could get to do that and by cost, that would be good to know.
Karen, what do you have any leads on that?
So I could barely hear Fletcher, but so if you're talking about the forensic audit,
Yes.
I think once we start the strategic plan, I think that question can be answered during that process. And honestly, even though it's a recommendation in that report, it's just a guide. It's there, but it doesn't mean that the town has to decide to do that, okay? Forensic audits can, cost up to between $10,000 and $60,000. Depends on what you're looking for, right? So I think there's other critical aspects, like the risk and the liability, that we ought to be looking at first, especially now with the chief's resignation. The process is going to be hard enough, and without the chief, it may be a little more difficult, but that's my personal opinion, and that's only my opinion.
Go ahead.
I would like to somewhat push back on that. I see it as a very important recommendation of that report, and one that I do not think we should ignore. I think given how that was expressed, I think it's very important that we pursue that.
So,
Karen, can you hear? Is the audio working? Well,
I can barely hear Fletcher. It's like,
right in
front of the microphone too.
I know, it's weird.
Which,
What was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought, darn it.
I'm out.
yeah, can we make it so that Fletcher doesn't have to shout? Don't want him to lose his voice in the first day. All right.
What about getting some prices on that?
We're gonna have to, but I think with a forensic audit too, you have to know exactly what you're looking for, right? I mean, I don't know anything about forensic audits, but Ron Smith, I did ask him about a forensic audit, and the question is, what are we looking for, right? Why? So it's in the report, Fletcher, but what are we looking for? And we may not know.
The purpose of a forensic audit is to tell you the stuff that you might not be looking for. I've been involved in a couple of them, and maybe you and I should have a conversation about who might be good to ask for not a formal bid, but just start the conversation about whether they're available and what they think it might cost, so we can start thinking about it more seriously.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm of two minds of doing a forensic audit of the fire department. I'm not sure we need to do it for the whole town, because we have a pretty robust audit system in place right now. And
Right.
they're pretty good at telling us if there are issues right away. So I mean, I'm open to uncovering what's happened in the past, and I assume that's what we mean by forensic audit. I'm also open to going forward, implementing some of the very good strategies in the audit that we have for the town hall, across the board for the highway department and the fire department, and making those policies standardized. My impression is that there has been a little bit of there's been a disconnect between how one does purchasing, for example, across departments. So that, I mean, if we're gonna go forward, then we would do the other things where we'd have purchasing policies, and we'd have a strategic plan that would give us those assurances that everyone is doing what they're supposed to do when they're purchasing equipment, and assigning, an asset management system was another recommendation. And those are things that we would do going forward to get a handle on this. So I guess I'm not necessarily need to see the forensic audit, but if that's the will of the board, we can certainly look into it. What does everyone else think?
I agree with Fletcher. I think it should be one of our priorities.
Okay.
At least, again, we need to find out what the lay of the land is. We're speculating right now.
Sure.
The cost, and we need to talk to some folks and see if they'll give us some price ranges.
So Karen, can you get us some, cost ranges on that, and maybe Fletcher can get in touch with you since he's done them before?
Sure.
Okay. So I did mention, the purchasing policies, there was a asset management, system recommendation, which I think would also be a good thing to have across the town, not just the fire department, because it's good to know what you have and what you don't have and where it is, and how old it is and what the serial number is. So those things are good to have. And there was also the, possibly a memorandum of understanding between the town and the Putney Fire
Association.
Association, thank you. So that we all understand who's doing what and, where the municipal line ends and the volunteer line begins. Okay.
I'm assuming that all of those things fall under the strategic plan.
I think some of them do. Yeah,
And with the, and what I'm hearing is that the forensic audit might be pulled out from that.
so
That's what you're kind of proposing, is that let's not wait for the strategic plan in order to proceed with that audit. But these other things, I would imagine, would fall under that strategic.
yeah, maybe, but also I think you could pull these out. We could do a memorandum of understanding pretty quickly. Without having to do a strategic plan. I don't think that we'd have to wait on that. If it ends up that, we didn't write it correctly, then it could be a
So can you
recommendation.
read those again?
The ones that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Purchasing policies and memorandum of understanding between the town and the fire association, and asset management systems. In addition to a strategic plan and a forensic audit.
Okay. Yeah.
Karen, do you have your hand up?
I do. Just a general comment. So the asset management, we're working with our HR Smith, our auditor. So hopefully we'll get a handle on that, but we definitely need a system in place for all departments, because it would be best, so we know what is insured, what's not insured, what we have, what we don't have, what's been retired, whatever. The second comment I want to make, so as far as the memorandum of understanding between the association and the town, I would suggest that legal counsel put that together.
Definitely.
Not us, but have an attorney do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Other discussion on the board?
This is probably a pretty radical thing to throw out at this stage, but based on the Triton report, I was pretty uncomfortable with the looseness of that association and, and who purchases what assets, to whom do they belong, all of that.
Yeah.
It really occurred to me that the whole fire department might benefit from us setting up a fire district, so that it became a formal municipal entity with its own board running it and watching it more closely. Because it really feels like it's on the periphery of what we can manage. I mean, the report made it clear that the fire department doesn't even seem to be particularly bound by the policies that we adopt,
Right.
even though legally they're part of our responsibility. And I think it would benefit, I mean, this is just a preliminary thought, but I think it might benefit from a little more coherent organization that was more closely supervised. People who really wanted to pay attention to just the fire department. And the way to do that would, this is sort of long range because the town meeting would have to set it up.
Yeah.
But,
Special town meeting, but yeah.
we might be able to establish a prudential committee to look into it. And I personally think it would be a really good idea, but what the Triton report showed was a degree of looseness that I think we can't just let slide on.
I agree, and I think that's where I was coming up with the memorandum of understanding, and again, that may just be a stopgap.
It's not even clear to me who you're making a memorandum of understanding with.
Well,
I
that's the
mean,
first, that would be the first step, wouldn't it?
I went on the Secretary of State's website and I couldn't find an organization that is the Putney firefighters. If there's no legal entity there, I don't even know who we're entering into an agreement
Maybe
with.
that's the first order of business then.
I think.
But I guess what I'm confused about is whether or not these things are in addition to that strategic plan or part of the strategic. And
I would say it's part of that strategic plan.
Okay, so you would rather wait and get a report out and then implement some things, or would you pick up some interim low-hanging fruit?
I think the low hanging fruit we can do, and I think some of it's already being done.
Maybe we're not. It's low-hanging.
But I mean, you have fire personnel right in the room right there. I think they can speak as well.
Okay.
That some of those items in that report are already being done. I think it's the bigger items that are more technical that we're all going to need help with.
Okay.
And you know, Fletcher, I just want to comment on your statement about a fire district, because Westminster is a fire district and it works up there. You have to ask yourself, just in our county, 3 towns have used AP Triton to do analyses on their departments. The question is why, right? And I can tell you Stowe and Williston use AP Triton, and the city of South Burlington is using a different consultant. And that's a bigger problem, you know? So having a consultant work with us with a strategic plan to get us through this process, I think is imperative. And it's hard to make any decision or possible decision on which way to go.
Okay. Okay. I see your hand, Heather. I'll get to you in a second.
I guess it seems to me like we have a bigger issue of keeping the fire department going under the conditions, under the situation we're in. And not that these issues aren't important, but they're not as pressing to me as and I'm not sure what our role or responsibility is in the continuation of the fire services that we have here. And so I guess I don't want to get all the way down the pike with trying to figure out, you know, how we're going to manage the relationship between the fire association and the fire department, you know, firefighters association, the fire department, or how we're going to deal with a audit. I mean, these things are super important to me, but they don't seem like the thing that we need to deal with right this second. So I guess
in response to one point you made, we're 100% responsible. This board is 100% responsible for the operation of that department right now, regardless of how it has functioned in the past. And in terms of priorities, I totally agree with you. The absolute top priority is to try and work with the department to find a replacement for Tom.
right. So I guess I feel like that's really what I want to be talking about.
Okay.
And I, you know, not that I don't want to talk about these other things because they're important, clearly, but kind of I see them as B and C as opposed to A. So.
What's your name?
Chris Mel.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just so we can clarify some of the components, Fletcher. I've been with the Putney Fire Department since 1996, so I've seen all of these components. The association is actually kind of a piece of a bygone era. So going back in the history of the department, basically the association was paid by the town for call hours. That in 1999, we realized there was, I believe it was 99 or 2000, we realized that we were not covered insurance-wise. We were considered a volunteer department. The town owned all the apparatus, owned all of the equipment, but we were volunteers. So we became a municipal department where we were municipal volunteers. That association still had funds. So it's really more, it's separate from the actual operations of the fire department. What that always used to do years and years ago was buy equipment. You know, the existing brush truck. We bought the brush truck, we bought the skid unit, we bought the back of the body, we built the truck ourselves, and we gave it to the town. And the town took ownership of it after we'd already purchased it. Now there is no funding mechanism to continue to fund the association unless we do whatever, fundraising events, so on and so forth. The key reason why it still exists is a fund that was given to us from one of the owners of Paper Mill who sold it in the 1980s. And there's a certain amount of money that we cannot spend. It's one of those where we can spend down to the original gift, and it was gifted to the Putney Fire Department Association. That's the reason why it continues to exist. So it's not, we've always used it to benefit the department and benefit the town, not as a competing component. We are all town employees. We are a municipal department, we're town employees. That's just, it's kind of separate, and there's not much there. Billy can talk more about that. But
Okay, one second. So it sounds like that is a good thing to put down. I've never seen that before. It's good. It's a great explanation. Billy?
Billy Strauss. I too have been with the department, not quite as long as Chris, but probably 2 decades anyway. Fletcher, this is to address one very specific point to set your mind at ease. The Putney Volunteer Firefighters Association, Inc. is a fully active registered 501c3 in the state of Vermont. So, because I know that's where you were going with that or thinking about, but just so you understand, that is the entity that is the association. From a legal point of view, it's a nonprofit established under the IRS guidelines like any other nonprofit in town. And that clarifies, I think, what you were getting at. And B, it also speaks to the fact that and this has been a point of confusion, I know, for as long as I've been talking with Karen, and I think Peg and I had a brief chat about it. The association stands as a completely separate, independent entity from the town, from the fire department. And I think some of the confusion stems from the fact that the members of the association, which is an open organization, in other words, non-firefighting community members can be members of the association, in fact are. It has, the members of the association overlap with the members of the department, if that makes sense to you guys. So that, I think, has contributed to some of the confusion about, is it the association or is it the department? It's a lot of the same bodies, but the association is an open organization to non-fire department members, A, and B, it's a standalone legal entity. It's a 501c3 unto itself. So I just wanted to clarify that.
All right, thanks for clarification. Heather, sorry to keep you waiting.
No, it's fine. I can definitely be patient. I just kind of wanted to lead into it with, you kind of recognize the fact that I've definitely had over 20 years in the fire service, not just with Putney, but in different states around the country. And I think at this point, you guys have 12 days until you're chiefless. And I think that needs to be the priority, is somebody to lead the department, because right now there is nobody to do so. And you also need to work with whoever comes in to do that, to try and build some of what you're trying to build, because as the board sits, there's one person, maybe 1.5 people that have had the experience to bring to the board regarding firefighting and EMS.
Okay, thank you. So Karen, do you have any updates for us on any of that?
As far as replacing the chief?
Just even just an interim, yeah.
We definitely need to have an interim. I did have an email sent to me today. I haven't talked to the chief about it yet. But I suppose if you want to talk about it, we can.
Well, Heather does raise a good point that we've got 18 days or less than 18 days before, there's no head there, and I just wanna know if there's any, I mean,
Well,
we-
so honestly, I'm not sure if, one, we need a job description. Is this board going, if we're gonna have an interim, are you having a full-time, or you having a part-time chief?
I would think part-time if we've given up all the state stuff. We're giving everything back to the state. for
Yeah, the
inspection.
state, the state fire safety is going back to the state.
okay,
We still need an emergency management director and a town health officer. So at
those
this,
right
probably not right away, but we should start looking. And I would rather not have it be one person.
away, right, okay, so the main thing is that we would need to find an interim part-time fire chief before
Yes.
March 18th.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And without knowing, I have no idea about people's training down there in-house right now. So that's something I need to speak to the chief about.
Okay.
I see it sort of as a two-step. First, an interim, obviously,
Yes.
to be addressed as soon as
Sure.
possible.
Yeah.
But, figuring that to last maybe up to 6 months, but that this board should, form a committee,
Mhm.
a hiring committee for the chief that involves members of the fire department, members of the firefighters association, but also, somebody from this board as well to fully participate in that.
Are you volunteering to write that charge?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have a, Fletcher's gonna work on a, charge to create a committee for a hiring committee for a fire chief. And that just leaves, who we're going to get in the interim. Do we need to, meet next week, Karen? You mentioned that to me earlier today. Do you?
I think we should all meet.
Yeah.
So all of the first responders, the board and myself.
So next week probably, right?
Yeah, because I don't, honestly, I haven't had a chance to talk to the chief. So I need to sit down with him.
Okay.
There's something else I wanted to say and now it's gone. Oh, Fletcher, if you're thinking about creating a committee, if you could get some past fire chiefs on that committee as well.
I think you and I should talk tomorrow and figure out
Who should be?
a structure for the committee. Who do we think should be on it? How should it be staffed? I mean, certainly present members of the fire department want to be on it, but a little more breadth of knowledge wouldn't hurt.
Billy?
Okay.
I just want to underscore the fact that we're in a potentially kind of crisis situation here, and I'm not so concerned about the long term. I kind of am echoing what Heather said, and we kind of got into the weeds a little bit about the association and stuff. The fire chief is done at the end of next week by my math, maybe one more day, I think the 18th. The day that he leaves, there's no leadership in the fire department. And that has all kinds of ramifications for people in town and for businesses in town. I don't understand how it's possible that in the time that has elapsed since he sent in his letter of resignation, that there has been, to my understanding, and I just heard Karen say it, no communication with the outgoing chief from town hall or from the select board. It just seems like I'm kind of scratching my head, like, this is a huge, huge issue. There's no leadership after 9 days from now. And that means we're depending on mutual aid, we're depending on the good graces of whoever shows up, and you can't run a fire department, especially in a complex town like this, without somebody designated to run it. So I'm saying this is a huge, it's probably the issue in town right now. And I just,
We're not gonna solve it tonight, but I hear you.
okay, well, I feel like it hasn't gotten airtime, so I'm giving it that
You're
airtime.
giving it air time, I hear you.
Okay.
And I do know that Karen has had some communication with the chief. It has been maybe not as much or robust as any of us would like, including Karen. But I do know that that's been happening. Karen, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to comment to Billy. So Billy, I've been under the weather for the last 2 weeks. So I've been pretty much not even in this office. Okay. When I came in, I forget what day it was. Oh, the 21st. I came in for a select board meeting because there was an executive session or something. And the chief's letter of resignation was on my desk, okay? I was very surprised to see it on my desk. I didn't even know it was coming. Okay, so the fact that I got it then, and I did talk to him on Thursday. Thursday afternoon last week. So we've been talking back and forth a little bit, but not as much as I'd like to. Because one, I haven't felt well enough to do it and to be able to focus on this. And we had to prepare for town meeting. So we know we have a crisis situation. And it's probably been leading up to this for a while. So we're gonna manage it. And for short term, we'll have to put somebody in that position. But we need to make sure we have the right person in that position as well. So that's a conversation I need to have with the chief.
Yeah, so given that we have this crisis and we have to make a decision pronto, I don't think it's not clear to me how having a large meeting with this full select board and all, the volunteers from the, the firefighters and the EMS folks and town hall, and it doesn't make sense to me that that is the group that would get together and have this conversation right now about getting a replacement for the chief. I don't know what does make sense because I don't know anything about firefighting. That's not my thing, right? But it seems like there should be a smaller group of people who do understand what the need is, a handful of 4 or 5 people who can get together in the next week and make this decision and make this happen. It just doesn't make sense to me that the process that's being proposed for getting us a solution by the end of next week doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear a proposal for a mass meeting before the end of next week to do this. I think the priority is to get an interim. I think Karen's the point person on that. The people who make the decision are the 5 of us. And I would suggest we plan on having a special meeting of the select board next week to get an update from Karen on where we are, what our possibilities are. And if with God's grace, approve the selection of an interim, if she's been able to round somebody up who's brave enough to jump into the middle of that fray.
So I guess that's what I'm trying to understand, that Karen, it would be Karen's responsibility to bring to us, if we have a special select board meeting next Wednesday, it would be Karen's responsibility to bring to us a proposal.
Yeah, I want to weigh in on, I want to ask Karen this. So Karen, whose responsibility is it to appoint an interim chief? Is that the select board or is that your responsibility?
So I oversee the chief. So I know that doesn't answer your question, but for full transparency, at this point, recommendations are brought to the select board, and then you vote to make the appointment.
I'm happy to be part of the process. I just don't want to slow it down. And we know that this board, we move as fast as we can, but that's not as fast as some people.
I know, I get it.
Be sure that there's, if we do need to be part of the process, I'm happy to do that. And I'm happy to come to a meeting next week. I just don't want to delay it if there's no point in delaying it. That's all.
Right.
Laura, your hand is up.
Thanks. Oh gosh. I'm actually stomach ill right now listening to this conversation. I'm so sorry that you have been feeling ill, Karen, but I do think it's your responsibility to have been moving on this a little faster, and I'm really worried. And because I'm really worried, I want to know, what is the plan if you don't find an interim chief?
So honestly, because I just learned about fire service too through the AP Triton process. So we do have a recommendation that was sent to me today through an email. And the recommendation was from the chief. So, whether or not that person is qualified, I would think they are. If they are recommended by the chief, okay? I don't know if it makes sense, and this is a conversation with the first responders. So you have EMS and then you have firefighting, which are, is everyone qualified to do both? I don't know that. All right. So I don't know, maybe Evan can answer that question. Martin.
You want to answer that first?
So as it stands right now, there's folks that are cross-trained in both fire as well as EMS. There's folks that are just EMS, and there's folks just do fire. So in some instances, yes, moving forward, there is going to be both, but there is definitely both sides as well.
Are you trained in both?
I am, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So Chief Goddard has recommended Evan Martin as to sit in until we sort this out.
Okay.
Karen, it would be helpful if
Can I respond? I'm sorry.
Sorry. So I have a couple of hands up here. So, and I also have a couple other public comments in the room. Who had their hand up first? Jake.
I'm Jake here. I've lived in town for a long time. I've been part of the fire department off and on for 15 years. And I guess, and this isn't a rhetorical question, but when did the chief give his letter?
That would be a question for Karen. Karen, when was it?
It was on the 21st.
The 21st. And there's been little to no communication with him about it?
I've talked to him a few times. Not much, a few times.
Well, and to echo, I don't know who, I can't see the screen from here.
You're talking to Karen. She's.
No, but the lady that we lost, and Billy, it is a crisis. So my question to the board is, how come nobody from the board reached out? Not like a rhetorical question, but like very specific. Each one of you, why didn't you reach out? I mean, did you know?
We found out, when was that? So it was February.
It was the 21st. It was a select board meeting.
Select board meeting, and it was a 3.5 hour meeting with an executive session at the end. And I'll say that, I personally feel that this was a personnel issue and should have remained in the town manager's office. So I have not reached out to Tom personally. We have not had a lot of time between that. We've also had a special meeting, the weekend after that to try to suss out, ARPA money. And then we also had town meeting, and I can hear your frustration that this board, again, is not necessarily moving as fast as we would like it to. But we are 5 volunteers and we only have so much time in the day. So I apologize that this is coming up now, this late in the game, but Karen has been sick. We have been dealing with town meeting, and you know, as everybody knows, we're all struggling with resources. That's not an excuse, that just is. Laura?
Is that
Laura, sorry, Laura.
I will respond that is fair. And Karen, it sounds to me like maybe, especially since you're not feeling well, this isn't being conveyed as well as it could be. It sounds to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've been in conversations with the chief. The chief has made a recommendation. There is the potential for an interim in the room. This is moving along. And just as a former select board member, it is not the select board's job to manage Karen's staff and to manage the hiring process. As far as I know, maybe I'm mistaken or misremembering what it is to be on select board. But so just for clarity, I'm not trying to come at you. I'm trying to understand. This conversation is a lot to take in, and it feels like it's not maybe coming across the way that it's actually happened.
And I just want to also say that we are dealing with personnel, and personnel does have certain privacy concerns. So it's not necessarily, we can't just talk about people in public. So I just want everybody to realize that there's things that are happening behind the scenes that we may not necessarily be able to divulge. I have select board first, and then I'm gonna go to Heather and then go back to you, okay?
Right. I just want to give a little context too, that we just lost a select board member, added a select board member, went through.
Lost it.
Went through not knowing if our chair was going to be here tonight. It's been a week, a bit of 2 weeks. I can't believe that was 2 weeks ago. And I too, I mean, I know we're in a crisis, but it has been a 2-week ride. So it sounds like we're making progress, and I'm glad for that.
Okay, thank you. So Heather?
I just wanted to touch base and kind of point back to the report from AP Triton that really signified the lack of training in the fire department. Secondary to that, I would take any recommendation of somebody who meets certain criteria, somebody who's been to a leadership class, somebody who's been to officer training that the state offers to their fire academy. I would make very, very sure that the person coming in, interim or long-term, is overqualified rather than under.
I have a question whether this is even the appropriate place to be having this conversation. It feels like it is an executive session question about hiring and employment.
Yeah.
And so
okay. So you're advocating for an executive session at the end?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do, all right? And we'll probably invite Evan, right? To that discussion. Jake, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to verify that I wasn't trying to come at anybody else's question. That this is very, like I said, I've lived here since the early 90s, and this is the very first meeting I've ever been to. So I just wanted to be clear on that is if the role of, if I was clear with what she said, the select board is not the hiring, firing, and is to left up the town manager manages the department heads.
Yep.
With little to no interference from the select board.
We oversee Karen.
Right.
And
well,
so we're responsible for Karen's performance, but not interfering, but getting into the weeds with employment issues and other things. It's really, we are a town manager town. If we were a town administrator town with, there would be other, Karen's role would be more limited, but we're really overseeing Karen. And to your other point, it's totally fine. We're here to hear everybody's frustrations, and, you know, we didn't move very fast on this, and you know, it was bad timing for this to happen right now for us. And that's just what
Well,
it is.
that's understandable. It's just, I'm very familiar with personnel issues with my job, and I understand that that cannot be discussed. And I'm not looking to discuss any of it. I have no interest in discussing any of it. But I just wanted to make that clear. It's more, it's like a concerned citizen with a family and
Yeah.
elderly parents and that live in town, that we essentially, after 12 days, won't have a fire chief.
Yeah.
The guy that's got 40-something years that's walking out the door, and that creates a bit of a vacuum. So as a taxpayer and a citizen, that was my question.
Absolutely. It's a fair question.
A very quick last comment from me about this is to zoom back out a little bit on the current situation with the fire department. I just want to strongly encourage the town manager and the board to use the outgoing fire chief's remaining 7 days on the job, maybe 8 to include his very last day, to get as much a knowledge dump as possible and to try to get his recommendations based on his 22 years here about how to best proceed with this interim piece. And I understand now for the first time tonight that a recommendation has been made, and that's a great start. But whatever it takes to get that input from Chief Goddard before he's out the door, if we don't do that, that is a huge asset wasted. Because once he's gone, it's going to be very difficult to call him up and say, hey, what about this? So I understand you guys have been under the gun the last 2 weeks. These things have a way of not happening in a convenient fashion. But we are where we are, and he is an enormous source of knowledge about emergency services in this town, probably the biggest source of knowledge. So let's use it while we've got it and make the best decision we can for the interim, and then hopefully the long-term solution will follow. Just say that.
Good recommendation right there. All right, so it sounds like we are going to have an executive session after the rest of this. I see you, Swift, for a second. I'll call in a second. After we get through the rest of our meeting, and we'll invite it's Evan into that meeting with Karen, and hopefully something will come of that. So Swift.
I'm just going to say just a different tone. I'm hearing so many assumptions in the room of feeling like people assuming that the select board or Karen are not doing their best. And I just want to add in a different tone of just the trust that I have. And I don't have a lot of experience with the fire department, but I do have experience with the select board and with Karen. And I trust that both you, the select board, and Karen are doing their best, are taking this seriously. And we'll make sure that we are not FUCKED on the 15th or the 18th, whatever day it is. And I know that you all have our back. So whatever it takes. Thank you.
Thank you, Swift.
Thank you, Swift.
Okay, does anybody else have any other comments in the room on the fire department situation? Anybody online have any comments, more comments? Does anybody on the select board have it? We don't have, do we need to make a motion to have, because we were talking about getting some RFPs for a forensic audit and a strategic plan, right? Do you need us to take action on that, or is that we're just directing you to do that? Karen?
Well, I have an ARPA application for the strategic planning.
Okay.
So if you approve that, then it's covered.
Well, according to our ARPA policy, we have to wait 2 weeks after we initially review it. So that won't happen until the next meeting. But as far as starting the RFP process is concerned, is that something you can just do, or do you need us to take action?
No, No, go ahead and take action on it.
Okay, so can I hear a motion to direct Karen to start the process of getting, this is a bad motion, to get getting a RFPs for a financial forensic audit and for a strategic plan for the fire department. Did that sound, it didn't sound very good, did it?
No,
Do you want to make a different one?
I actually don't, well, no, I shouldn't be speaking. I'm just going to vote against it.
That's fine. So I have, okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to direct Karen to start the process of finding RFPs for a financial forensic audit and a strategic plan. Further discussion among the board.
I can only support that if it happens after we resolve the interim fire chief thing. You know, I just don't want to pile something else onto Karen's plate right now, say, Karen, we have this expectation that you're gonna do this, when there's this other piece of work that needs to be done pronto.
Would you prefer to, now, first of all, we could go into executive session right now and kick everybody out and tell them to come back later. So we could do that.
No, that's not my point.
Okay.
My point is that no matter what we decide here, that there's work to do with the fire chief and the fire station, the issue around the fire department over the next 2 weeks. And I just want to free Karen up with as much time as possible to do that. And so I'm resistant to adding.
We didn't put a time frame on it.
Okay.
We didn't say within the next 24 hours.
Okay,
So,
all right, so
and she did ask us to take action on those. So,
that is true.
so that was why I started that process.
All right, okay. As long as she knows that I don't think she should focus on it in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. For the discussion among the board, is there, is somebody's, oh, Karen's hand is up. Karen?
All I wanted to say, the priority is getting the interim fire chief filled. And this will be secondary.
Yeah.
And no, it should be tertiary because Karen, you need to get
better.
healthy.
Yeah.
So you need to take some time off and you need to, those are your 2 priorities.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm going to go as far as time off, but just try to take.
Hey, be nice, Fletcher.
First day on the board, he's already riding you. All right, so, okay, so is there further discussion among the board? Any comments in the room about that motion? Any comments online about the motion we just put on the table? Any other discussion among the board? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good. So I think we finished with the fire department discussion for now. So the next thing, and this is backwards, I'm sorry. So we're going to approve the minutes of February, where the first one's February 21st. Oh, that's because it was a hearing, that's why. No, wait, that's not right. You're leaving? Yes, I'm trying to leave. I'll be back. All right.
So Eileen, February 21st, you had the public hearing and then we had our regular meeting.
Yeah, but didn't we have a,
Should have,
oh, all right. So we do have all the minutes.
yeah, you have 2 sets of minutes for the 21st.
All right. That felt like 2 meetings. That's why. Okay. So,
Right.
So can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of February 21st, 2024 and for the special meeting on February 24th, 2024?
So.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
All right, it's been moved
I'm
to second.
going to steer clear since I wasn't on
You should
board for
abstain, yeah.
any of these meetings.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we'll have you abstain. And we still have 3 of us in the room, so we're good. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of February 21st, 2024 and the special meeting on February 24th, 2024. Are there any changes, questions? I just want to say, Rachel, that I think you captured the ARPA discussion really well. This was really good, I thought. It captured all the points and Thank you for doing minutes. Really appreciate it. Any errors, comments, questions? Maybe you good. You're good. Okay. Anybody else? Eric? Did you look at them already?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next up is warrants to the treasurer. Can I hear a motion?
Well, to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of the agreement.
For a second.
But
It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrant to the treasurer upon completion of review. Karen?
Sorry, folks, I'm kind of. Oh, let me see. Payroll warrant dated March 8th, 2024 in the amount of $21,824.80.
Okay. Pretty normal.
Accounts payable dated February 24th through March 8th, 2024 in the amount of $1,340,929.31. Of that, $1,211,836 is the final payment to Wyndham Southeast School District. I don't think on this warrant too is payments to the folks that work the elections.
Okay.
And I'm trying to see what else is unusual.
Couple of taxpayers.
Yep. Taxpayer credits, KRT appraisal is $9,719.96.
Temple Plumbing, Karen?
Who?
Temple
Temple.
Plumbing?
Oh, that's for the furnace down at the highway department. The bearings were going in it.
Yeah.
So Dale Temple went down and fixed it.
Questions on the board on the accounts payable?
Could you tell me what Simon operation is?
Simon operation.
Sure.
Go ahead, Carrie.
So Simon Operations Services is our wastewater treatment and our sewer contractor.
Well, I guess we gotta pay that.
Yes.
Any other questions? There's some things that show up on, obviously there's some things that show up there that eventually you'll remember what they are.
Yeah, how many of these payments do we make to Wyndham Southeast?
I think it's quarterly. It's quarterly, Karen?
To the school district,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's after each tax collection.
Oh, so it's
so three.
three.
Yeah, so there's 3 a year and we have to pay within 15 days after tax collection day. And here's the other thing too, Fletcher, with school payments. So we work on a preliminary cash flow that we get like late in the year, like late. And then there'll be a final cash flow. And hopefully we're close to that number, but it can fluctuate up or down. So sometimes, you know, in the past, we've overpaid. So we've gotten a check back. But yeah, so we don't get a final cash flow for, it might be April or May.
Nate?
What is Alec Goldschmidt for?
All right, so Alec Goldschmidt, 15,200. Do you remember that check the last warrant.
For the library stonework.
Yep.
Yes, it's for the library stonework. So we wrote the check out to the company
Oh,
and to his company. And then we were told that we needed to write it out to him individually. So we avoided the other check and we wrote it out to his name as he requested, and I don't know.
all right. Hopefully he'll cash it.
Karen Milton Rentals.
That's for the dozer we rented for the carpenter pit.
Okay.
And half of that's gonna get paid by Dummerston.
Okay.
You're speaking a language I don't understand. A dozer for a carpenter pit. Can you tell me what that means?
So the carpenter pit is where we get our gravel from.
Uh-huh.
And we have a reclamation plan. And in order to get some of the sand too, you know, you have to have a road. So we needed the dozer to like flatten it some more so we could get to the sand. And so we share that pit with Dummerston.
Right.
And they paid half the cost.
Okay, who got to operate the dozer?
Brian. Brian Harlow.
Alright. Okay, any other questions on the warrants?
So that was a big warrant.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
All right, hearing no other questions, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so next is public comments on items not on the agenda. It's totally backwards. Any comments online? Any comments in the, I'm sorry, Sweat?
Hi, I just wanted to read a statement for Women's History Month from the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee. March is Women's History Month. So we wrote something, the end of it is a little more like what we usually do, but Eleni wrote this amazing opening. So to those that identify as women. To the women who grace this world with their presence, illuminating the lives of those around you with your kindness, wisdom, and grace, you are the embodiment of strength, the epitome of resilience, and the very essence of love. Your compassion knows no bounds, and your unwavering determination knows no limits. Each step you take leaves an indelible mark on the tapestry of humanity, inspiring admiration in all who have the privilege of knowing you. May you always remember the incredible impact you have on this world simply by being your authentic self. Keep shining glowingly, for the world is infinitely brighter with you in it. I loved offering anyone identifies as a woman that, and it was such a different flavor. Also, there are some local events going on for Women's History Month. The Downtown Brattleboro Alliance has a month-long collection of women highlighted programs, including the co-op speaker demo series in the cafe and the Sewn Shirt Girls, spelled GRRRLS, to the front events. And that you can find more information on the www.brattleboro.com/events-calendar. There's also some local artists, Elena Dodd, being featured in the Street Feet Women, which was founded in Boston in the 80s. And it is authors and poets and writers, and they are having a 2024 International Women's Day reading, and that's on Zoom. I think the best way to get the information for that, they have a Facebook page. So Facebook search Street Feet, STREET, Feet, FEET, all one word, women. And that is on Sunday, March 10th from 4 to 5:30. There's probably about 8. I didn't look at the program extensively. Different presenters, they're reading chapters and poems, and Elena Dodd's doing a monologue, and there's also a flute performance, and it's all virtual, so very accessible. The theme for this year is shock, shame/revelation. And their statement is, we engage personally with current issues, searching for ways to understand, stay sane, and keep a sense of humor. Check it out on Facebook, Street Feet Women. thanks so much. Happy Women's History Month.
Thank you. Okay, is there, I usually open it up to the select board first, but everything's backwards today, so anybody on the select board have anything to say?
I have one question. The League of Cities and Towns is doing a training for select board members. I personally would like to attend it. That's
Yeah, they tend to do those around this time of year.
it's about 2 weeks from now. I
Yeah,
think,
okay.
on a Saturday, and I would like to attend it. I think I need to have the town approve that because it has to be put in by a member, and I'm not a member of the League of Cities.
You will be. You are now, actually.
Oh, good. Then I'll run for office.
Yeah. So, Karen, how does that work? How does Fletcher get his membership, his VLCT membership?
We're gonna have to add him
Okay.
to the VLCT system.
Okay.
I can do that tomorrow,
Great.
and I'll use your new email address, Fletcher.
Thank you.
So they'll confirm with you, okay?
Good.
And then
Thank
you
you.
can sign up for that class.
Is that a face-to-face or remote?
I want to go and
Yeah.
jump right in. So I was planning on, it's only up at Lake Worry. So it's not a huge hall. It's not.
I've been to their intro to select board. Is that
Select Board Essentials is what it's
Yeah.
called, yeah.
Yeah. And did you go to that?
I did that over Zoom.
I end up doing them soon because I have,
Yeah.
because I can't take the time off to go.
It's great.
I'd love to go, but I can't.
I really enjoy meeting other select.
Yeah,
board
it's
members. That was
definitely
really
better to do it in person, but yeah, VLCT is a great resource for other things as well. They've got model policies, they've got, you can ask questions of, their suite of municipal lawyers. And they've got, let's see, what else do they've got webinars going on all the time. Just various, they're very good resource for select boards or any other volunteer. So I happen to be a member twice because I work for Brattleboro and I'm on here, so I use them quite a lot. So does anybody else want to take that class? Even if you've been here for a while, it's a good refresher.
There's no Zoom option for it this year, is there?
I don't know.
I think there is.
Is there?
They've been pretty good at doing both. And sometimes they'll even record them afterwards, so you can just get the recording too if you, for some reason, can't make the actual time. Would you be into it?
The Zoom option, I could.
Okay.
Same one we do.
I think it's the same, yeah.
The new stuff.
Oh, I don't know. I'm taking it on, so yeah, and you can actually sign yourself up, I believe. And then there's an option to invoice the town, and you just, if there's a cost to it, I don't know if there's a cost to that one or not. So yeah, I highly encourage everybody to take that class. And the other ones as well, they always have ones on conflicts of interest and on open meeting law. That's always a fun one. They have a legislative update chat that I have not been able to remember to get onto, but they talk about stuff that's happening in the legislature, which is also very good. So yeah, use that resource because they're definitely, they have a lot of good stuff for us. I was going to say welcome to Fletcher, since I didn't get to say that to begin with, to the board, and many good years with for the rest of us, the rest of the four of us. We'll get to have a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so are there other comments on the board, online to the public, from the public? Any comments in the room on items not on the agenda? All right, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to echo something that was said earlier, which is to acknowledge and thank all of you guys and Karen for your service and hard work through this, especially in general, but especially through the last month, which I think has just been a pile up of It's
Not
so,
anything.
you know, it's, you guys are doing an awesome job, and I know it's super demanding, so I just think it's important to acknowledge that publicly. So thank you. And thank you, Fletcher, for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy.
Okay. Any other comments from them? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the town manager's report. Do you have a town manager's report, Karen?
I do not have one.
Is it easy? Okay, the next one is the boards, committees, and commissions discussion action. There's the Sackett's Brook alternative presentation on April 18th. Go ahead, Jane.
My name is Jane Coleus, and I'm a member of the Wilson Wetlands Stewardship Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. And we are in our second year and final phase of the Flood Resilient Communities Fund grant that we got to evaluate the flood resiliency of Sackett's Brook as it flows through the wetland complex of the Sand Hill Road area. And this final phase is going to culminate with a public meeting that's going to be presented by the consultants that have been doing the work for us. And that meeting is going to be April 18th at 6:30. It's going to be hosted live at the library, and there will be Zoom capability as well. And the committee would like to invite the select board and any members of the public to attend. They are going to, and all of the reports that they've done thus far are online, available online under the committee, the town website under our subsection. So this is going to be their their final report, and it's going to be the opportunity for people to ask questions about the study, about what their recommendations are and what they found, and to have some input.
Okay. Just a logistical question, because I'm drawing a blank. Karen, do we need to warn that if more than two of us show up as a select board meeting? Because
If more than two of you show up? No.
okay. I think we all should try to make it.
Right.
But I think we're allowed to go to presentations without warning meetings. So yeah, just making sure that we're.
Can you say the date again, please?
Yes, and it's April 18th at 6:30, and we'll be putting out information, flyers, and on the I Love Putney Facebook page. So we'll be disseminating more publicly that information.
Okay. Did you say it's going to be on Zoom too, or in person only?
I'm sorry?
Did you say it was going to be on Zoom as well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Comments? Thank you for working on that during the year, and it'll be exciting to see what they've come up with. Yeah. That's great. Are there any comments online about the Sackett's Brook alternative presentation that will be happening on April 18th at the library at 6:30 p.m.? Okay, well, thank you for sticking by us until we got to this point. We're doing everything backwards today.
I have one question, since it's under boards and committees. Don't all, at least non-standing committees, have to be reappointed by this board after town meeting?
They do, and we don't have that slate on here right now, but we can do it at the next meeting. We don't typically do it the first meeting. Usually the first meeting is about 5 minutes long. So, so we may not even have all these people, because Karen needs to reach out to people. So we might not even have that yet. Is that true, Karen?
No, so we have reached out to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to have a 5-hour-long meeting tonight, sorry. We'll do it March 20th. Anything lingering I'll have ready for the 20th.
Okay.
Don't
So-
worry, Fletcher, there's gonna be plenty of work for you to do.
Back at you.
Alright. Okay, so the next thing is the Selectboard Unfinished business, and we have two ARPA applications that we put off. We approved them pending the 2-week review, so I don't know that we need to go into too much of discussion on those unless we want to.
I just want Fletcher to be aware of, to understand what we did there.
What did you do?
It's in the minutes, actually. It's in the
And I can't even remember we were at that meeting.
that was the special meeting that we, on
Saturday.
Saturday. I think you might have not.
Did not be able to that meeting.
But the sort of February 24th meeting, we went through all of the applications that had shown up on our desk at that point, and we agreed to extend all of the ones that are on the very last page there, including two that had come to us a little bit late as in the ARPA process, because our ARPA policy says that we'll accept them on a select board date and wait 2 weeks to get any public input before we agree to extend them. But at that meeting, we agreed to expend those two. That's the 58,369 and the 69,000 pending the 2-week review. I haven't heard anything from anyone. Has anybody else? Does anybody have any second thoughts?
My only concern is if we do an audit, how do we pay for it?
We have 40,000 left,
Yeah, 41,000.
Yeah,
Hang on to that.
so.
Yeah,
And we also have a request.
we have a request for 41,000 for audit or something to that effect. Okay. Are there any comments online about expending the $58,369 for the Putney Community Cares project that came before us on February 24th, and also for the Putney Place, which was 69,000? Any comments online? Any comments in the room? Any further discussion among the board? Can I hear a motion to accept, to allocate ARPA funds for the Putney Community Cares in the amount of $58,369, and to allocate funds to the Putney Place in the amount of $69,000?
Somebody.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to allocate ARPA funds in the amount of $58,369 for the Putney Community Cares, and to allocate ARPA funds in the amount of $69,000 for the Putney Place. Any other discussion on the board? Any other comments in the online? Swift is celebrating. Any comments in the room? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. So we've done that piece. All right, so Karen, do you want to briefly present the proposal that you put in front of us?
I can, you have two proposals in front of you.
Another one from Putney Cares.
Putney Cares. So I could go first. Basically, I'm asking for $41,149, which is the remaining amount of the ARPA funds, and I want to target those funds directly to the fire department for strategic planning and the second floor construction. I know it's not going to cover it all, but that's what I would like to do. And there's attachments in the application. Attachment B is the AP Triton recommendation to initiate a strategic planning process. And attachment C is GPI's raw estimate of, I think it was $34,680, but It's a starting point, but I really feel the remaining money should be directed to the fire department at this time.
Okay.
Do you have any luck with any other estimates, Karen, or are you just kind of using this one to go off of?
This one's in the packet, Eric, but I'm waiting on Finish Line's estimate. I will follow up with them to see where they're at with that, because it's been several weeks now, but all the contractors are busy. And I had a third contractor who never, he did a walkthrough with me and he was supposed to touch base with the chief and he hasn't done that yet. So at this point, we might end up with two.
Okay. So we, I recommend that we take this away with us, and the other one is Ruby here. To talk about the other one. Ruby, would you like to talk about your new ARPA application?
Sure. So the application is related to the launch of a community nurse program. If you recall, in the summer, it was the summer, Putney Community Cares, we received some grant funding to do a feasibility study, which we did, and as an attachment to the ARPA application, I sent along the final report of that, which is kind of about to go live to the world, but you are one of the first people to get it. And within that, we kind of have a budget of the annual cost of what it'll take to run a nurse program. And Putney Community Cares has really made a commitment to giving this a go. We think that it's a need, and I don't know to what extent you all might be aware of it, but at the state level, there's I can't remember what it's called, but there's a report on aging that was released recently. So there's a heightened focus on the health of our communities, particularly the aging population in our communities. And so the community nurse program, from our perspective, fills a pretty large gap for people who aren't able to or aren't eligible to receive funding towards a home health nurse, and are not willing to or can't make it to or are resistant to going to the doctors. And so the community nurse is not a nurse who would go and dress wounds and actually do hands-on care. It's someone who goes into the home and helps understand doctor's orders, can assess wounds, can assess health, and support an individual and get them to the hospital or the doctor, and just generally have more of a wellness check, kind of regular check-in with particular people who they have as clients. So that's what the community nurse program will be. And the reason that we're this is a secondary application, thank you very much for approving our initial application, which has to do with improvements to our building, which were really critically important. This program is one that we are actively seeking funding for. We put in a grant application to the Community Nurse Connections for $5,000, and we have received assurance that we will likely get that grant. We've also put in an application to AARP, to their Community Challenge grant, for $10,000, and the $12,000 that we're requesting is the remainder of what we consider the annual startup cost for the program. Our expectation is that our expectation is that we will launch this, it will be successful. We may need to do some tweaking to how many hours the nurse has, up or down, some other kinds of tweaks. So the budget may change in the future, but Putney Community Cares is committed to having this program, making this program a reality. our recommendation from the Community Nurse Connections, which is the statewide program who has helped us and advised us in terms of starting up, is that other community nurse programs in the state, they are all run differently. Some of them are actually kind of departments of the town. So there's a community nurse who is a town employee. And still, yet other towns have dedicated funding from the town that helps to support a community nurse program. So it was already on the docket in our mind to come and talk to you about what kind of support the town would see as appropriate for this type of program. We are not having that conversation exactly now because we'd like to get this running and see some success in it before we really delve into a conversation about ongoing support. We do have a few, we have some thoughts from the fundraising committee of Putney Community Cares around other fundraising opportunities. There's some other grant opportunities that we'll be seeking for ongoing support. Some locals who we believe may be open to more significant gifts and have an interest in health. But I think because of the process that on the 24th that you went through and some of the conversations that came up, I brought back to the fundraising committee the reality that there was a little bit of funding left over, and this is I'm being really transparent. This is a launch. This is, we need funding to help get this going, and we as an organization have committed to continuing it, and that means seeking funding both internally and externally ongoingly. But we're poised to try to launch this in the summer, but we really can't do that until we have at least a good sum of the funds for annual maintenance raised.
Okay.
That's the program and the application.
Okay, thanks. Does the board have any questions?
Want to take on the role of town health officer?
That's a whole different conversation. I've been looking to talk to Karen about some of that because those, our organization has utilizes that role. We don't want to do it. We need you guys. We need somebody to help us when we have a client in crisis.
Any other questions on this? Heather?
Sorry, I was just curious, and maybe Ruby can answer the question if permitted. What licensure level are you guys looking at to have this community nurse come in? And if you change the licensure level, how does that affect your cost?
Ruby, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So this would be a registered nurse, not a nurse practitioner, and the community nurse, the kind of structure of a community nurse program as we're envisioning it is not working under a doctor's orders. And so that's part of where when I described kind of the scope of services where there wouldn't be dressing a wound, they might be assessing a wound. That's in part because they can't dress a wound because they're not working under the doctor that would have given those orders. So it's a registered nurse, and we would not, if we hired someone with higher credentials, they would not be utilizing those credentials in terms of the scope of their services. So a registered nurse is what we would be hiring. I don't know if that answers the question, Heather, but.
Did that answer your question, Heather?
Kind of. I was thinking more along the lines of an LPN might be a little bit cheaper.
Right. So the Community Nurse Connections, which is the consulting organization we've been talking to, their recommendation is to go with a registered nurse. And I cannot with assurance tell you the whys, but an LPN is not preferred in this particular role. I think it could be because of the independence that they have. I actually don't quite know. But they would be required to have licensure and insurance, and we have our own insurance related to liability as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions for Ruby online? Any questions in the room? Any questions on the board? So again, I think we should come back in 2 weeks with get the rubric that we have for the other processes. Come back in 2 weeks and get this going swift.
I had a question for Ruby as well, if allowed. I'm wondering what percentage this request fills of the budget for the project, the total budget for the project. What percentage this?
May I speak?
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the total budget is 27,000 for the annual cost of running the program. And so I do not know this math, this percentage off the top of my head, but this request is for 12,000. So a little less than 50.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ruby before we move on? Okay, thank you, Ruby, for that. I've lost the agenda there. Okay. Go ahead.
The only thing is I just want Fletcher to make sure there's a rubric we've used to evaluate these based on the criteria that we set up.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure you know that.
And can get it. I think, where did we get it? So is that part of the, it's not part of the policy, right?
No.
You can probably get it from Karen.
Yeah. We all should do those.
Yeah.
Bring them to the next.
And if you want to read the ARPA policy that we came up with, the ARPA resolution, it's in this nice big book that is also online. So you know which criteria we're working with. Okay, so any other comments on the board about the ARPA applications, the new ones? Okay.
No, but I have another ARPA question.
Okay, ARPA question.
Okay. Or suggestion, once we make our final ARPA decisions, I really would like it to be featured on the website so that the community can see
What we did?
What we did.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Or anything else?
No, I just totally agree
You
with
like that? Okay, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Okay, so moving on to select board reports, we have the draft sidewalk policy, which was waiting for town meeting to clarify that fund.
Right, and I did not get it done between yesterday when town meeting ended
Why
and
not?
today. Sorry.
Come on, Peg.
All right, so but that's gonna move forward now that you have that clarification, I assume. Okay, and then the cannabis control board process.
Yeah, I can say that Rachel, JJ, and I met once before town meeting, and we've been gathering data, and we're gonna meet again, I believe, in a week or 2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Are there any other select board? So Fletcher, I don't know if you realize this, but this is where this is where we report on things that are not quite ready for prime time to put in the rest of the agenda, but things that we're working on that we just want to get the process. It's kind of a way to get us to keep working on them. So it's been working pretty well, actually. So are there any other reports that didn't make it to this list, this backwards agenda? Okay, so we are going to have an executive session. Before we do that, our next meeting date is March 20th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. At the town hall and on Zoom, as we earlier discussed. That's how we're going to continue to do it. And so can I hear any, wait, I'm sorry. don't remember the exact, I don't have the statute, and it's BSA 32, 315A, right?
Yes.
Personnel. So can I hear a motion? Yes.
Before, we move to go into executive session, is it something that we need to meet
I was wondering
first
that the board should
before-
meet and then
First,
maybe,
And then
right, and then
invite-
bring,
yeah.
do you mind staying for a bit?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So, okay. so
It just
we're gonna-
seems like I think we need to have a conversation.
First, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna, so can I hear a motion to go into executive session under VSA 32, 313A? And invite Karen in.
So moved.
Second, so it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session under VSA 313A. Laura, are you waving to us bye-bye, or are you having your hand up?
Is it clapping?
Oh, you're clapping. Sorry, I can't quite see the screen. Okay, can I, no, I already did that. So, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone. Oh, and we may be making a decision, so you'll have to stay tuned.
And do we have to say that we're then gonna invite him, Evan into executive session?
Fletcher, what do you think about that? Do we have to say that at some point?
I'm not sure that the motion requires you to say who's
Who
in
we're
and who's
inviting
out.
in.
I mean, the
Okay.
presumption is actually, the presumption is it's just us.
Right,
And then,
And then we
we
usually-
invite the town manager, but I think we can invite in or out as we choose.
as we choose, okay. Very good to know. All right, so, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, all right, thank you, everyone.